people that isolated began to devolve. They imploded. Suicides, drinking, abuse, because they weren't in community. That's huge. But in my personal experience, whenever I bump up against something that I'm challenged by, I've always created a support group. Where I've always had a small support group, and the group will last as long as it needs to last, like 5 years or 10 years or 1 month, and then it moves on. Because I believe we all need someone to help us, and we need a circle. I'm big on circles, especially if you're a woman. You need to be in a circle so you can reflect to other women your experience. Men have their circles, which is important too, but because their experience is different from women, vice versa. Anyway, I'm big on the support system, and then having 1 or 2 trusted friends that you can go to when the trauma erupts, so that they can hold loving, kind space for you, not tell you what to do, but also working with a therapist, a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Welcome back to another edition here on Mentory TV, usually from crisis to creation. And today, I thought we're going to focus on trying to be a better self. Every single day, creating the feeling within ourselves that we can do it, that we are strong and empowered. And because this is one of my main missions, because I think that we're not here to be, but to become in our life journey, I came across a fantastic book called Live an Empowered Life by Susan Burrell. And really, it is a 30-day journey book. That's a book. As you can see, I worked through it. It really is a day-by-day guidance, how to develop yourself, become a better person, and also kind of get rid of maybe the old self, detox, and then start entering into the new self. Susan, so good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Patricia. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And I got to say, when you were doing the intro and you said from crisis to creation,
yes,
I got chills. My whole body went, oh, I just got chills. It's that's what so many of us are going through lately, is the crisis to the creation of a new and better life. So thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. I'm super excited. And just a couple of words to you. You are a coach, a motivational speaker. Now you're author as well with this book. It is a true journey. What I liked about it, you try to show that to become and to be empowered is something you have to work for. And you have to put the work in. And, I always say effort or equates interest. So if you're interested in yourself, you've got to put the effort in. So this is something that I think this book definitely shows. You're also a specialist in EFT, which is emotional tapping, freedom technique. It is tapping, and which I actually do as well. We'll talk a little bit about that one. But first of all, let me just ask you, there's so many concepts that you mentioned in this book. So the first one I would like to actually mention is journaling, because journaling is something that this book you wrote relies on heavily. Why is journaling a tool that helps us to evolve?
I'm so grateful you're starting with journaling, because it's the cornerstone of my daily spiritual practice. But when it's not journaling, like here's what happened today, what I discovered during the growth of my life, let me put it that way, is my journaling moved from here's the bad stuff and let's just sit in the pity party, and every day it was a whiny me, I'm so sad. And I realized that was just keeping whatever I was writing down was keeping it stuck. So in the book starts with out the story in your head, because we all carry stories. Mine was "he done me wrong" story. And once I intentionally started journaling to get that garbage out of my head, so that I wasn't walking around minute by minute with the story running, the movie playing, I realized then that created more space in my mind to then begin to co-create a better life from the inside out. But I had to excavate the anger, the shame, the guilt, and put it out in a book that I could close, walk away, and have the rest of my day. And I encourage people not to go back and reread the story, because the whole point is to get rid of the story. And lots of people like to keep their journals so they can reread them and go, oh, look at, I don't know why people keep the journals, but really to just get the garbage out. And in getting the garbage out, you begin to see what beliefs you've had, whether they're from family of origin or ancestral beliefs, or what, in my case, my ex-husband told me there were beliefs. I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't any of it enough. And so you get to see what you've actually bought into, right? And then once you figure out or begin to pull that, like as a whole bunch of yarn that just didn't get rolled up right, but once you get to pull out that thread from the center of your being, you begin to see, oh, these beliefs, the beliefs aren't mine. They were my mother's or my grandmother's, or they were my ex-husband's. But then you can also discern what beliefs are yours. And then you have choice, because the freedom comes out of choice. And if you want to keep the beliefs that say you're a bad person and you're ugly and whatever, fine. I would recommend you don't do that. And you get to change the beliefs. That's a choice. You can affirm differently. And there's affirmations in the book to help support. And in my personal case, I had to affirm that I was loved.
No, I think affirmations is a very big part of the work here, and we will talk more in depth into it. And what really is surprising to me, and I always wondered about journaling, because I journaled for many years and I kept my journals. And, as you move house or you kind of whatever, somehow you step back and then you take your journals, you're through it. Oh my God. It's like, what was I all about? What a pity party. Is that really me? And funnily, identifying myself with what I wrote was really hard, where I just thought, oh my God, how pathetic is that? How could I have written it? In what sort of moment was I? And I wonder, because you just said two things, get it out, your garbage, and then basically trash it. That's the best way. Don't go back, don't read. On the other hand, you have to look at your trash to see. It's a bit like, your bowel movements, if I may just be really explicit. You have to kind of have to see what is going inside, in your microbiome, right, what's going on there, looking at what's coming out on the other hand, to then just look how you're going to feed yourself. So after the detoxing, the detoxed stuff needs to be somehow analyzed as well. So how do I find the balance and really then get the guidance? What is my belief? What is someone else's beliefs? What is really what is me, and what is trauma me?
Well, it's interesting because I got two things I want to say, Patricia. So, so it's interesting because I find a lot of my clients, friends, haven't ever done that inner excavation, because and I know it was true for me when I started my spiritual journey. I was so scared to see what was inside me, because if you open up the can of shame or anger, is it ever going to stop? And I have a college friend I sent the book to, who really could use it. And she said, I'm so excited to read your book. And everybody was excited to read the book, except that it's a workbook. It's a do the work book.
I was sweating. I was sweating.
Yeah. I didn't realize people would have that. And so this one friend said she got to the very first part, which is get the garbage out of your head. And she texted me. She goes, I can't do this. I can't. 50 something. I can't do this. She had never done it, So there, because there's places where we hold those pockets of guilt and shame and all that. So, what your question was, but this is the other thing. I don't reread my journals anymore. Is I did keep all my journals from 28 years of marriage, right? And when I was clearing my house because I had to sell it, I found these boxes of journals, and I was like, oh my God. So what? And I read like one of them, and experience I was having 28 years later was the experience I was having within the second year of my marriage. And so what I saw is, had I listened to my intuition, my gut at the beginning, I wouldn't have gone through all that pain and shame and blame and all of it. And for whatever reason, I stayed 28 years until I finally woke up one day and said, that's it, enough. And consequently, it was like I got shot out of a cannon. My intuitive zillioned, I listened only to my intuition. During this pandemic experience, I only listened to me. I only listened to me. And I didn't listen to the outer externals who were telling me what I needed to do for my body. So I only listened to me. And that's how I live my life now. But it took the recognition at some point through journaling and to go, wow, I already known it intuitively and I didn't act on it for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful point to pick up on, Susan, is a couple of things, that listening to ourselves rather than to whoever surrounds us. Okay. We lose this as babies. We kind of listen to ourselves and we do what instinctively feels right. And somehow through socialization and the do's and the don't do's, we not only adapt to that, but we totally depend on it for our own validation. So whatever comes through from the inner voice and we may, listen to, but then ignore, like you could have saved yourself 26 years of unhappiness or being put down or feeling unloved or not enough, as you mentioned it before, had you not lost, like we all do, in the process of growing up and being a good citizen, a responsible wife, a responsible mother, daughter, and what have you, lost that ability to deep listen to what's actually going on deep inside. So
absolutely.
The question about, education and wisdom, and that balance gets lost at some time because wisdom is within us, you say.
Wisdom is innate. We're born with it, and it resides within the heart. I want everybody to know it's the wisdom you feel in your heart, not your mind, because the ego runs the mind and you can get into a trap with that. So why always, the book is also interactive with guided meditations that I do, because I want people to connect to their heart center, where that, what I call the spark of divinity, lies within every single human being on the planet. It's not just certain people get a spark of divinity and the others don't. We all have it. And then again, going back to freedom of choice, how do we choose to utilize that? Do we choose to listen to it and cultivate it? Or do we choose to ignore it and just go by the binary brain system that tells us what to do, which isn't connected really to anything except what you were just mentioning, that the socialization and cultural belief systems that doesn't necessarily serve the individuals.
And I think the point choice, I believe very strongly that choice is freedom, but choice is also responsibility. Okay, so you make a choice. And that brings me to, day 5 of your journey. And that is when you talk about trust. And there we have an affirmation. And if I may read it out, I thought it was very, very powerful. I trust the unknown. I relinquish the known. I'm open to wonderful possibilities in my life. Now, why did I choose this was exactly what you were just saying. You have a choice. You have to kind of be different and listen to that inner voice and know what is right for you. but you lose the trust. You lose the trust in yourself. I mean, if I say, okay, well, my inner voice, the reason why we don't choose our inner voice is exactly that we actually lost our trust in ourselves because somebody has been somehow scraping away our self-acceptance, self-love, self-confidence, everything that this journal really is trying to rebuild, I guess.
Yes, I love the word you use, scraping, because in my personal experience, it felt like scraping. I was being scraped down to the bone, and that affirmation was a powerful one. All the affirmations in the book, Patricia, I wrote and worked personally while I was going through a very contentious divorce, and that affirmation showed up the day after I recognized that my marriage was over, and
Oh,
I
really?
went to see.
Right.
I went to see a masseuse because I decided I was going to see a masseuse once a month to take care of me. And as soon as I put my face in the cradle, right, she had this affirmation playing. I trust the unknown. I relinquish the known. I live in infinite possibilities, or something like that. But I trust the unknown. And so for an hour, I was listening to that affirmation, and I didn't have most of my life. My trust had been disabled as a young child. Hence, I could get into a narcissistic relationship for 28 years. So trusting for me is one of the key components that I have to rebuild almost daily. Trusting myself, trusting people around me, trusting that I'm safe when I go outside. When I walk through an airport, when I get on a plane, and I love to travel with my current spouse. So, just trust was a huge, huge component that I really didn't have a good foundation for, which is why, and I think there's lots of people, especially women, who have been traumatized or abused. The trust factor is minimal, if it's even there. So to build up from within yourself, your personal trust, and make that your cornerstone. And when I get triggered, because I still have like a post-traumatic trigger, when I get triggered, I have to, once I calm down enough, which is what the tapping EFT is so great to neutralize those emotions, so you can see, okay, what's really going on, because what I'm reacting to is not necessarily what's happening. What I'm reacting to is old wounding, old traumas that haven't been healed. Hence, again, the journaling, journal it out, write it out, and then replace or use it grab an affirmation that you can download in your heart. And I just want to say this about affirmations, Patricia, because I've been in, a spiritual community for 30 years where a lot of people use affirmations. Well, just change your thinking, and you can change your belief system. No. Yes, you can, but it's not changing your mind thinking. It's changing the reaction in your heart center. And using affirmations, lots of people say, oh, I just do my affirmations every morning and it's not changing. Well, it's because you're stuck in your head. Usually it's because you're stuck in your head. And so bringing those affirmations down into your heart, where the heart system and the wisdom of your heart, right, aligns with the truth of this is actually, I've been listening to Abraham Hicks again about alignment and getting into your vortex, which is in your heart center, and aligning with what it is you truly desire, like happiness and love and joy. So bringing that affirmation into that heart center where it aligns with your higher self and aligns with the wisdom of your source energy in your heart, then amazing things transform. And that's how change occurs. That's how I believe. It's my experience.
Absolutely. And I think what here is the important question, I think, that goes, okay, so if I have an affirmation and it is a rational thing, so it's in here, the how, I want to know the how do I get it from here to here?
So that's where meditation comes in for me, because fascinating because I often will start to work an affirmation and then I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling this. So when you just drop in, it's always about the heart center for me. You drop into that heart and open it up. Love, right? The love of the entire universe and beyond resides in our hearts. And in my case, I had built this huge protection system because I was in such a traumatic relationship for so many years, so that my heart was encased in this huge castle with a moat, and nobody could get in, and I didn't even know that I wasn't letting anybody in. So dropping into that heart space, and what I do is I myself and I encourage my clients, or when I lead a class, to just begin to breathe a vibration of love, and you breathe it into the heart and you exhale it. And then you breathe it into the heart and you exhale it. And you do it enough times until you are beginning to feel that you are surrounded in an atmosphere of love. And one of my affirmations currently is I live and move in an atmosphere of love.
That's beautiful.
I see clearly through the eyes of love. So bringing the affirmation into the heart vibration of love, I've found is it's actually, I'm going to tell you, your listen, it's a healing component. I have healed physical issues in my body almost immediately by opening up that heart space, aligning with a high frequency of love, and then affirming the thing I want, like clear vision.
Yeah,
so
I so believe it. And I think here, at least for me in my experience, was really the very simple physical part, and that is the breathing. Because also like trusting ourselves, we do kind of forget about whatever is automatically happening in our body. And especially in our life, the way we live it today, we do forget to breathe. And just by breathing in and out, and we know that also from certain practices, from yoga or tantra or whatever, how fundamental and key the breathing rhythm, depth, and the focus on it in itself can be a meditation, changes completely the body chemistry and how we feel our body. And it's so interesting because it really is, we are lacking something so simple like oxygen in our day-to-day life because we don't think about it, but we don't even notice if we don't breathe either, which is kind of strange from nature. Nature should be bing, bing, bing. You have to breathe into your diaphragm all the time, and it doesn't happen. But for me, for example, breathing is a key element in if I want to mood change, whatever it is, or want to get into a certain mode and mood. And I do have my breathing exercises, which I follow religiously, and that do then shift also, the vagus nerve and what have you. So you do change. And with that, I think the vibration, for me at least, actually starts, and the vortex of love, or the law of attraction, where action is a big word, big part of the word attraction. There needs to be action before something can happen.
Well, and that is the breathing, and that's the meditation, and that is getting to know yourself from the inside out, right? That to me is the key action. And then as you know yourself, then you listen to yourself. And if yourself says, wow, it's so funny, you thought your day was going to go ABC, but really it's going to go QRT. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going over to the T instead of the A. Fine, it's fine.
You go over to
but
the
that's
tea rather than the
listening.
coffee. Yeah, no,
right.
Yeah, but you know what I find very intriguing about your story, and I think a lot of people can resonate with it that have also been in a relationship that then either turned toxic and then turned out wrong, is I asked myself after wrong relationships, what attracted me into the relationship, first of all. And let's drop the physicality of whoever you find physically attractive enough to go potentially into a relationship. Not only what attracted me, but what kept me in this toxic relationship. And I think that my trauma or my reasons, perhaps yours as well, happened way before that allowed this to happen. So maybe that wrong relationship was finally the painful wake-up call needed to look back even further. And then, to find that trauma, we can move on from.
I agree. In hindsight now, I can agree with you. If you had said any of this to me while I was going through divorce, I would have. But because in hindsight, so 2021 took the year off. It was originally going to be just a month, but I decided to take the entire year off from my business, all my producing and promoting, and I still do my podcast, but and so I sat daily in the morning for like 1 or 2 hours in meditation, journaling, deep listening to my spirit guides, to all of a sudden I'm working with archangels, who knew, and and elementals, and I'm like, wow, that was so cool when the breeze just blew through my brain and cleared all that shit. Sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine.
But so in the process of doing that, the reason why is a type 1 diabetic for 30 years. So my relationship, previous marriage was so toxic, I took it out on myself and I became a type 1 immediately, insulin dependent diabetic. Didn't put 2 and 2 together until hindsight, right? So I wanted to take time to heal my body. There was stuff starting to show up, like in my vision. So as I was doing that, I was starting from the physicality, right? Let's see what we can heal the vision, which I have, but from the outside in. So as I was deepening, then all the belief systems started to show up, and I could track it back through my lineage. And I could also see it through my ex-husband's lineage of how it downloaded on him. And so I did a lot of healing work daily for all of 2021, which also not just for myself, but for the future generations that are now going to come through my son. Because and I had decided this, I don't know, when he was 10, that there was a raging thing that happened, that kept going on my side of the family. So I sat one day, I woke up and I went, that's it stops with me. Any generational downloads of it's okay to be angry and rageful and all that stuff stops with me, because I didn't want my son to be at the effect of it, or then to pass it down to his kids, So there, in the excavation of 2021, for me, there was a belief of not being good enough. It came through his father's side, my side, and then so I healed that so that he can have more freedom to be exactly who he is, and trust himself. And and because of all that, he's thriving more. Not that he knows that I did any of that, but so I also saw the female side of my family. It went back way, 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 way. I can't even tell you how many, maybe a century of women who had been abused, and and in that day, if you think it's a century ago, right, it was normal for women to be abused and subjugated and treated as chattel or dismissed or thrown off a cliff to see if they're a witch, that kind of stuff. And so I began to see that it was my grandmother, and both grandmothers, and my mom lived, was from that originating trauma, because I wanted to go see if I could go back as far as I could to the originating trauma. And it got passed down every generation, so that it was without any words being spoken to me, it was a subtle agreement that it was okay to stay in an abusive, traumatic relationship for 28 years.
That is so key. But exactly. But the thing is, did that come out, that kind of wisdom about, these negative energies being passed down and experiences and underlying acceptance of whatever happens to us? Did that kind of awakening, if I may say so, Susan, come during that abusive relationship? There was no other way in your growing up, in your adulthood, to kind of get to that and see your mother and your grandmother, or even speak, I don't know, speak to them, or if they ever, talked in an open relationship, kind of talk about how they
it wasn't my family of origin. You didn't talk about my mother, especially her brother. Yeah. My mom's family was non-confrontational. You avoid the conflict, you avoid the elephant in the room. And I was the kid, my father was just telling me this the other day. I was the kid who was like, wait, there's an elephant. Don't you all see the elephant? What's wrong with you? We've got to talk about the elephant. And nobody would, and I really didn't begin to really see deeply because I was too afraid until after my divorce. Because I also, Patricia, really important for me to rid my mental, physical, emotional, and etheric bodies of his energy, because he was so toxic. Every time I tried to cut cords, because we're all energy beings. We are all for source energy, and electricity moves through us, and it's chi, there's meridians, all this stuff. And because of that, we sync up with other human beings. It's why mothers are attached to their children and vice versa. But toxic people like to find the people that are light, and then they send out cords. Emotional vampires, right? Spiritual vampires. They send out cords attached to you, and they start sucking your energy. Well, my ex-husband had me, I was in like a fisherman net of cords that were attached all over, when I could, in meditation, everybody, when I could sit and actually see what was holding me back. And I could only see that while I was going through divorce, not before. I didn't understand. And so as I was cutting these cords, and I've been doing it for 10 years still, because he does send them out still, every time I would cut the cord, he would have a reaction, send me a nasty email or a nasty text, or, trying to reestablish that, because he could feel it. It's subtle energy. He could feel it. And when we are in tune in a positive way, that's why I talk about a high frequency of love. When we're in tune with that, then we can recognize when those negative things are coming at us or have attached to us. And then we have, again, the freedom of choice to release that, to cut the cord. So I don't know why I was telling you that now,
no,
Patricia.
This is so pivotal, because it actually really comes down at the end of the day, how you perceive yourself. And where you draw a line, an emotional line. I'm not talking about, don't talk to me like that, but it is eventually, I mean, you see so many things in hindsight after the divorce or during the divorce, but within the relationship, you just knew something was off. I mean, it cannot, to be with a toxic person, a narcissist, and not being one, you also kind of justify your own choice and say, yeah, but it's love. It's kind of, maybe this is the way it's his love language. This is how he encodes his love towards me. And you kind of find all these excuses, but you do feel deep down there's something out of sync, which then one day you go like, no, that's my line. But when you draw the line, I think depends very much on that. What is the hardest for all of us to do is that self-love, that self-acceptance, that knowing that I am settled in myself, and what you say, dear husband or not, is just not resonating right. It's not doing me well. I mean, I'm getting cancer, turning diabetic, autoimmune disease, or what have you, because the body talks to us. I mean, when the mind, it doesn't get hurt, then it becomes psychosomatic, right? And I guess
exactly
at some point you had that and you recognized it.
Well, I want to talk about psychosomatic. I want to talk about dis-ease, but also Oh, well, let's talk about disease because the second thing left my head. I have very firmly now that anything that shows up in my body, it's not because I thought about it and attracted it, or it's that I wasn't listening previously. So, because if we don't listen to our spiritual wisdom, our gut, our intuition, and follow that, right? Even though it may sound silly or scary, if we don't follow our truth, our own personal inner truth, my truth is different from your truth, from other people's truth. So if we don't align and follow that truth and be true to ourselves, it's a lot of T's, sorry, then then we develop dis-ease, an ingrown toenail. Ingrown toenails, unexpressed rage, right? When I was, people keep telling me, oh, you've been diabetic. You really need to have more joy in your life. Yeah, I get it. 28 years, no joy. So, but when these diseases show up, I was just looking at cancer because I'm doing some prayer work with a young woman who has cancer, and it's deeply held secrets or guilt and deeply held anger. And I was like, and I don't know this woman, she's just contacted me. But when I work with her energetically, I can feel where that's landing, and it's exactly where her cancer is out picturing
That's
currently.
amazing. Okay.
So anyway, so the process is, so the body is these expressions to catch our attention because we haven't been listening before. And so going back to what I said earlier about I was able to heal my vision, in the wanting to heal my body of diabetes, residual stuff showed up. One of them is I had swelling at the back of my eyes. And the first doctor I went to said, both eyes, you're going to need a shot once a week for about 6 months. I was like, oh, in the eye. No.
Maybe
I
not.
go to a new doctor. He runs new tests. Between the time I saw the old doctor and the new doctor, I had already healing circle of really amazing practitioners I called at the beginning of 2021 to help me heal my body. So I let them know, my eyes, you guys help me. I'm not quite sure what's back there, what the thought form was that got planted at the back of my eye. Do you see what I'm saying?
Totally.
So I go to the new doctor, new test. He's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this eye. It's the right eye. It's not really that bad, but okay, let's try one shot and we'll see how it goes. So I went from both eyes needing shots weekly to I've had 2 shots over the course of 3 months. And now the eye is healed. But this was also intentional. What got lodged back at the back of my eye that was creating that appearance of a dis-ease, and it was definitely want to see my life, and that happened years and years and years and years ago, right? And so in the intention of healing my body of diabetes, these residuals started to show up. This is just the after effect of, it's not the truth now. Often the disease is an after effect. Does this make sense?
It's a symptom.
So it's not.
I totally agree.
So that's why you can heal it.
Yeah.
You can change it because it's the result of your behaviors, your thinking, how you've been treated, and you couldn't deal with it or change it. So it's a result of, and that means that then in this new moment, because every moment is absolutely brand new, crystal clean, you can shift that experience and create a new experience that will have a different after effect.
Absolutely. And it resonates with me so truly, because I think sickness is a manifestation of something that goes deeper. Okay. And I'm not talking about you walked, you ski and then you break your leg. Okay. Well, that is obviously classical medicine. But if any other stuff, be it also on your skin all of a sudden, or hair loss, or hormonal change, and you see it in whatever, perimenopause, what have you, these are effects. Yes, of course, might also be what you eat or what you don't eat or fail to eat. But it really is a psychological and emotional thing that is manifesting in a physical thing. And I so wish that there would be a lot more holistic doctors, that see when there is something developing like a psoriasis, that this is not because you've been showering too long with the wrong soap on you. I mean, yeah, of course that might be one of the things, but I don't need a medical degree to tell you, please just don't, overdo it, look after your skin in a different way. But they say, okay, so what's going on? That it goes deeper because we are a holistic system. And then moving on the conversation from here is, now we are detox, now we're into a new life. And that is another thing that really struck me about your book. And that is, what day are we at here? We're day 19. And my new purpose, the mind map. I'm a huge fan of mind mapping. Actually, that really carried me through school and university, and when I take notes, whatever. So this fabulous. Can one see it a little bit? Yeah.
It was hard to do it without.
Yeah.
So I have a video. People can go to my website. The whole book is interactive with my website for videos to teach mind mapping and tapping, but also guided meditations. And because that's mind mapping, I have clients when they're sitting in my chair and they're starting to talk, and I'm like, okay, and I start to draw a circle on a piece of paper. They're like, oh no, but it helps because you can uncover the parts of your mind that the beliefs that you're hiding from. You can uncover that, and you can also uncover your desires. What is it you really want?
Yeah. And
so,
absolutely. And I just think, an image speaks 1,000 words, especially when you are a layman in what we are trying to do. And that would definitely be also one of my main questions. Do you think your own work that you kind of do right now, and your own emotional path and involvement, did you have somebody helping you, guiding you, being there with you, coaching you? Or is that all, can we really trust to do this by ourselves and go like, no, I think the result is okay because I'm feeling better?
Okay, so first of all, the human being needs community. And as we just saw with this lockdown pandemic experience, people that isolated began to devolve. They imploded, suicides, drinking, abuse, because they weren't in community. So that's huge. But in my personal experience, whenever I bump up against something that I'm challenged by, I've always created a support group. Where I've always had a small support group, and the group will last as long as it needs to last, like 5 years or 10 years or 1 month, and then it moves on, because I believe we all need someone to help us, and we need a circle. I'm big on circles, especially if you're a woman. You need to be in a circle so you can reflect to other women your experience. Men have their circles, which is important too, but because their experience is different from women, vice versa. Anyway, I'm big on the support system, and then having 1 or 2 trusted friends that you can go to when the trauma erupts, so that they can hold loving, kind space for you, not tell you what to do, but also working with a therapist, a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's up to you. Working with, I have a couple of women who are channelers, mediums. I was working with one consistently for several years. I now have a brilliant somatic healer. And I now, with my son getting married recently, I did 3 months of a weekly session, half-hour session with him to move the energy, the stuck energy, so I could be open and available to my son and my daughter-in-law through the wedding system experience. And so somatic healing, a somatic healer goes in and finds where your emotions are stuck, and then they help you focus on that area of your body, because it gets stuck in the body, right? If we're all physical beings, but we're electrical, we have those electrical components, and then we're emotional beings. The emotion will get stuck. This is also how disease creates itself, by these stuck emotions. So a somatic healer has been a godsend to me. I've been working with him for about a year, but specifically weekly, to prepare for the wedding, because I had to. So yeah, I believe in having help. What I've noticed is, I have some clients that think they can do it on their own, and then they come back to me and they're like, I was doing so well, and then this happened and I'm not doing well. So there's this not rewind, but a rewind, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or whatever. And
it's a
and they're like,
experience. It makes you feel even more vulnerable, and that sometimes you try to double down on whatever you try to do for yourself, then you stumble, and then you're crushed, but totally. So it can also backfire if you don't have somebody next to you. And if I may interject there, I mean, for me, for certain, in my own journey, I was always a fan of self-help. I think 99.9% of all the books that I read are certainly nonfiction about anything, but certainly about, spirituality, mind development, body development, the entire thing. Because we all have these childhood traumas and anxieties that back then happened, you're not aware of, but today may give you the limits or the boundaries that don't, they're just limiting, and you just don't know why you fall into the same trap or why you behave in the same way, even though last time you should have learned from it, and you just cannot do it. And so I had an emotional coach for many years, still have her, but I tell you what did for me the trick. There is 2 elements apart from the breathing. That might be the third one. Is the tapping is magic. And it's bloody crazy if you're introduced to it, because I mean,
it is.
No, it is like you gotta know, and then and I do a certain method by Dr. Michael Bohne, who is like I don't know if you know him. He's a German guru in that, who kind of went further, developed his own stuff, and he's got some humming and chanting into it, and like weird.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Weird.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that is the second element that does it for me. But you know what really did the trick for me is opening the hood, going deep without me being there, changing something deep down, and then closing the hood of the car again. And that is hypnosis. And everybody needs to know what works for them. But something magical happened through my hypnotist, that after sitting down, going through what actually drives or doesn't drive certain behaviors of mine, which I thought I need to get rid of them, just please do it. Hypnosis is kind of like the last resort. And that worked magic. It really was something that is quite incredible. And there we become actually very physical. If you think about how the brain is structured, and that 95% of our behavior is actually not conscious, but subconscious. And the subconscious is exactly what you mentioned before, is influenced by the energies of our ancestors. And of course, the energies that we already received in the womb of our mothers through the entire childhood, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of energy that has come down on us, that has changed, and even on a deeper level of our brain, which can be very much changed, interrupted through hypnosis, if the hypnotist, if you trust it, and B, really find a good person. So for me, that was quite a bit of a game changer, I have to say. What do you think about hypnosis?
I agree with you. I've had some hypnosis done that was helpful. I also had hypnosis done that didn't do jack. So I want to encourage the listeners to interview, like you're going to interview a new doctor, interview a new hypnotist, so that you find the one that syncs with your energetic system, because that's where you're going to get the most benefit, right, Patricia? That's what it sounds like that's what you found. It's the person that just synced with your energy system. Not all of them. It's the same with coaches. Not everybody out there is true.
No, absolutely. You have to do your research and you have to try out. That is exactly what you're also saying in your book. It's a lot of work. And even just finding somebody that understands you, sees you, and then can actually work with you is work in itself. And it's also quite expensive. It's not as if these miracle doctors come for free. So it is certainly a journey. But I prefer it from the self-help to move to, maybe shelf help where all your books are there and they're nice and you still didn't get on or whatever, so that you really find something that works. And what I thought was this severing the ties of the past. And it is something that can be quite physical if you think about it. Energetically, you have to cut it off. What you were saying, you have to detox and replace with affirmations. But if you have I don't want to say if you have an active brain, but if you've got a lot of chatter, the ants, the automatic negative thoughts by Dr. Daniel Amen, it's a big thing that he propagates. It's really very, very difficult to keep that severing, because they come back, because they've been ingrained for so long, where this kind of umbilical cord maybe to your negative chatter really can be cut. And hypnosis seems to be one of the tools that, at least for me,
very helpful. Yeah. So let me just. This is why my book is a journey book. It's a workbook, because I wanted people to have some kind of experience of through that stuff and coming out with a new focus on what their purpose is, whether it changed or not. I don't care, but part of what you just described is when we clear out. I just think about a garden, right? If you're going to plant a garden, you have to clear out the weeds and the rocks, and then you have to prepare the soil, and then you plant the seeds. And you don't dig up the seeds to go, oh, are there any roots yet? No, you just leave them there. You water, you let the sun do its thing. But as the garden is growing, weeds will come back. So those are the belief systems that keep popping up in our brain, the negative chatter that keeps popping up. And so eventually that garden will get weed free most of the time of its growing season, right? But you have to go out there, check the weed. Oh yeah, there's another weed. Let's just pull it out. It's no longer the huge excavation to prepare the soil kind of thing. It's just there's that one weed. Oh, yeah. You don't get to come over here and play with my tomatoes.
Absolutely. I think consistency is what you're getting at. And
yes.
As I was saying, with the tapping or with the breathing or, whatever you do, it needs to become part of you. And it is a daily thing. It's not a one time and then, yeah, cool. It's a bit like going to the gym, for Christ's sake. You go once a week for 8 hours. It certainly is not as effective as going every day for half an hour. Full stop. I mean, this is just how we are made. And that brings me to some last one I want to mention from your fabulous book, Susan, is day 25. And there you talk about, hiding, that you also as a child, you were hiding a little bit. And that reminds me a little bit of the story from your friend where you asked her to journal. She said, I can't do this. Because in a way, you're living a life potentially that is not resonating with you, so you're not authentic, but you don't have anything else, so right. you need to kind of almost defend that wrong belief system, because everything you do, everybody even the job you may have or the way you maybe raised your children are still in that framework. So if you start poking it, all of a sudden the whole thing goes down. So the affirmation for that day is, I no longer participate in deliberating acts of invisibility which have kept me from living my inspired life. I'm free to be fully me. this is where I'm finding a nice loop to what you said about yourself and also what your friend said. No, I don't even know who is me, because the me that I'm living is kind of, it's just all I have.
Yeah, I think of many people, like the human condition is that we see our circumstances as if that is the real thing. And if we feel trapped by the circumstance, and often, as I certainly did, I couldn't find a way out. I didn't see that there was an option of divorce. I never saw it until it was actually right there, the door open. I was like, oh, crap, I guess I'm getting divorced. So, but a lot of people, they struggle. A lot of people get, hold on, I'm hearing imprisoned soul. Years ago, I had a practitioner I was working with, and she said there's lots of people that come that are born, and they come imprisoned. Their soul is imprisoned. Their soul doesn't want to do the growth work that we're required to do, which is why we all come to planet Earth, to do soul growth, evolution, for the higher good of all. So as we grow individually, we are still contributing to the higher good of all, to the allness, the oneness that is beyond explanation. And so many souls, and sorry, I'm just going to say this, Patricia, I really do believe that the pandemic was the wake-up call. Wasn't what, without it being a big tsunami, but there's been tsunamis and earthquakes and fires, la, la, la. But it was the wake-up. It was the opportunity for the individual soul to wake up and go, I'm not doing the inner work. I'm not growing. I need to grow. And talk about breathing, right? Taking that breath, drinking that elixir of life, if you will, and grow. And many people had already put themselves in that cage. And so then there was a lot of death, because my mother included, she didn't ever, ever, ever want to grow. And she was in that imprisoned cage. And there's lots of people that think that their life circumstance, their job, their family, and serious stuff, serious stuff, that defines them. And they can't, I have a friend who has a severely autistic son, so intelligent, this kid. He's now 32. They have decided he will always live with them. This woman hadn't traveled because she needed to be there. She needed to, he depended specifically on her and then her husband. And so and what does she do? She can't walk out of that experience, right? I mean, there's other choices she could make, I guess, but that's prison in a way. That's the cage that her life is now set in. And why? Who knows? That's between her and herself. Why? And her and her family, right? But there's people that have those experiences, right? I had the privilege of interviewing an amazing American veteran. His name is Jason, and he's a paraplegic, and he was one of the first vets. He had on a secret mission, basically, and he got hurt, and tons of brain and heart operations, and then he lost the bottom half of his legs and wheelchair bound. And he was one of the first people to get a canine companion, one of the first veterans. And then the canine companion people realized that it's not just good for blind people, but vets need it for their PTSD and trauma if they can't. And this man, what an exquisite, that all of that could have, he could have just ended up committing suicide at one point. He came back, when he came out of all the rehab, it was 3 years in a hospital and surgeries and blah, blah, blah. His wife left him with 3 boys. And so he raised 3 boys from a wheelchair. And his sons are stellar, and he is stellar. So he could have said, oh my God, this is my life and I'm in a cage. And I'm sure, and I know he went through some of that, but he continually, and it's a daily practice. He gets up every day, right? He shows up. He is the light. He is a light leader. He's amazing. So it's up to us. We have freedom of choice. How are we going to deal with this circumstance or all the circumstances? And if you look out at those circumstances, I mean, who wouldn't want to hide under a blanket for the rest of their lives? But we have freedom of choice of how we want to operate. And for me, it comes from that soul connection, that heart wisdom, that love vibration that I stand in. I re-enter every morning or as needed during the day. Wow, I'm not being kind. Let me re-enter myself, because if I'm not being kind to somebody outside of me, I'm probably beating the crap out of me inside. Especially after I say something not nice,
No, absolutely. This resonates so much. If you say you show up to yourself. I mean, okay, we didn't have the choice to be born, but now that we are, if you don't show up to yourself, well, the alternative we all know is that dog in the background.
I have a dog. I'm sorry, everybody.
You lucky woman.
She's been really good this whole time.
What is it?
I have a Sheltie, and she is territorial. So anybody, she can see out a window here, and if there's trucks, they're not allowed anywhere near my house.
I love it.
Yeah.
You're being well protected. But coming back to the story, it's very powerful. And the reason why it touches me so much, Susan, is because my daughter's great uncle, he actually had a motorbike accident when he was 15. So really still a virgin, not seen anything from life, a little bit, one of those kids. Very spoiled, good family, blah, 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 a bit lazy, well, because he could. Has that accident, tetraplegic. So basically in a wheelchair there and then. And he has, from that moment on, from being a really bad student, a little bit of a lazy, obese kid, soared. And he says he's the first one to say, thank you, Lord, Hashem, whatever it is in your own belief, for that accident. It made me so much stronger. Without that, I would have just become some sort of, a loser, just, a taker.
Yeah.
But he did an MBA, an international one, in the wheelchair between the US, the UK. He now lives and works in Hungary, is married, has children. I mean, a full life. Fantastic. But he says because of that circumstance. And, I always say that I study Kabbalah. And we strongly believe that our obstacles are the opportunities to grow, first of all, and that we are being sent back, as in reincarnation, to be, again, reincarnated if we still have things to do here.
Yes.
The obstacles to work off. We call them klipots. Okay, so the klipots need to be. And then when you kind of did what you need to do as an embodied soul, then you might not be reborn. So, I mean, everybody may think about this, what it is, what they may, but the essence here is that you are conscious about what you do and the effect, that you don't just react, but you respond, that there is a certain, resonance within you, and that that you are a stone that drops into a lake, and the ripple effects are being felt by the globe, by your family, by yourself.
Yes.
And one thing, and one of the last questions, because I know we are almost out of time here, is you mentioned the pandemic being a pivot in our society. What would you say, and also from your vast experience with your patients, Susan, are the main, let's say, three main pain points of our society you can see that, come and you're faced with over and over again in your work?
Well, the biggest one is not trusting yourself. And so therefore you outsource your love to friends, family, spouses. You outsource your authority to doctors and clinicians and whoever's on the news telling you what you're supposed to believe and who you're supposed to vote for. So not trusting yourself and being in tune with that. is one of the pain points, one of the learning opportunities that may have been missed. And the other one is recognizing that we're all connected, that we're all one. No matter what color your skin is, or your sexual preference, or where you live, any of it, because we're all connected. And what you said about the rock and the ripples, it's, some of the work I do is work, right? So it's intentional energy work that reaches across the planet. My somatic healer that I work with lives in Portugal. We've never seen each other physically, in real time physical, So we're all connected. We're all one, and it's been fascinating to watch how the divisions multiplied instead of everybody waking up going, oh, we're all in this together. That was a big thing here in the United States. We're all in this together, but we're all in this together in our isolated cells. And so people that really do believe, still have the old belief system of us against them, right versus wrong. Those are the people that are still perpetrating the schism that keeps humanity from healing completely. And we witness that across the globe. And that was a huge opportunity missed, and so more opportunities like in the Kabbalah are showing up still, because the highest, whatever you want to call the universe, the oneness, the allness, knows we came here to learn. We came here to learn that we're all one. We came here to learn to trust ourselves. We came here to remember the truth of our beingness, which is that we are these divine sparks of light and love. And we are here to have experiences so that the soul continues to grow and evolve. And in my growth from pain to happiness, I then, that energy that I've shifted within myself, like the stone in the water, you said, radiates out. It's my intention to radiate out. And I call myself, I am a conduit for spirit. And I work with other individuals who want to be light leaders, because now is the time, not just light workers. Everybody talks about, oh, I'm a light worker. No, if you're doing the work, then you are a light leader. And this is our time, where so many enlightened souls, or souls that want to be really fully themselves in a high holy way, have shown up here. And when we are not quite conscious, we focus on the outsourced authority who tells us what to do. You mentioned earlier, self-responsibility, big one. That's another pain opportunity that I think has been missed, because we are all responsible for our individual selves. It's not my job to tell you what to do, even though I talk about what you should do. But it's really, the more I take care of me, the better the world becomes, because of that radiance, that vibrational outpouring that happens when. And then if you're in a group, a support group of like-minded people that practice similarly, and I know you've experienced this a ton, then that group grows that energy and continue and then the vibrational output becomes even stronger.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we're at now. People need to come together, not disassociate and split off anymore. We need to come together, and in the coming together, there is always some sort of reconciliation that can occur. There's some sort of higher solution that we can't know individually, right? We've got to have people that we can interact with to create a better solution, because we are now at that place on the entire planet where the infrastructures that have been in place for centuries have crumbled, and we're watching them crumble everywhere. And the people that want to keep repeating the old are the ones that are getting harmed, basically.
The old, who does the old?
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
It does not
Yeah.
work anymore. And I'm so with you. And, what I hear you saying is, first of all, change starts with you. And this is where I think also the empowerment comes in. You do have the power to maybe think differently. Just, try it. Be courageous with yourself, even if it's just in your, separate Kämmerlein. And then if you then, if you do that and then you find a community. So you create your own echo chamber. So what? You need that. You need that you see, okay, I'm not alone here, because one can feel terribly alone in the family setup, be it as a child or be it as a wife or whatever, So you need to somehow find people that resonate with you and they echo chamber with you, because they kind of give you that confidence, even though it is from the outside, but what you feel inside and what you had the courage to do to show up. And I always say, I don't need more Chanel bags. I need more community. Both starts with a C. And I think the community, the sense of community, which kind of started to re-happen thanks to the crisis. And by the way, Mentoring TV started because of the crisis, because I was bored out of my head. And I said, I need to reach out to my community. I feel lonely. I feel isolated and mentally understimulated. So this is how I created it. And this is why it's called From Crisis to Creation as well. So that is important. And I think the empowerment comes only in the moment when you stop being a victim. The moment that you make everybody else responsible, why you, because that happened, he said, she said, my mom did. We all have our pile of crap we are sitting on, all of us, So, right. And it's on us to say, okay, it might not be so comfortable, but, somehow life goes past and that's all I know. So who knows what other pile I may sit on, or you do the work. And there, I think your book is actually pivotal. It really is the nudge, to show also it is hard work. If you want to show up to yourself, it's sometimes not pretty.
It's not pretty.
And sometimes you feel, in the morning you look in the mirror and you put lipstick on a pig. Because you're just okay, I'm trying to be now dramatic, but sometimes we all feel like this, go like, Jesus, what is this all about? And then I think this is already the first recognition that empowers you, that question already to move on, potentially.
Yes. Yeah. And it's possible. I'm living proof, which is why I wrote the book. I'm living proof that you can move beyond your circumstances. You can heal from within and have an amazing, amazing life of happiness and love and fulfillment and all that. I'm the living proof of it. So,
wonderful. Susan, where can one dig deeper about you? Give us a little bit of a spiel. You have a fantastic banner behind you, and I do especially love the word opulence. Usually I don't really see it. Opulence, like the first thing they tell you not to be, but to be humble. And there I see opulence. But one thing is, of course.
No, so, again, that humble thing, the way we've interpreted it is old. It's old. Humility, you can live in and develop and still have the riches that you want in your life, whether it's a physical thing. You mentioned Chanel. I have Louis Vuitton. But it's not about the physicality of riches. It's about the riches from within you. That's opulence to me now. And it walks hand in hand with humility. Opulence and humility come together. So how everybody can investigate, and what I do is to go to my website, Susan Burrell, BURRELL.com. You'll find my book there. If I'm teaching classes, they'll show up on there, and you can sign up. I'm on pause right now, but I also have my podcast there called Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell, and you can listen to the interviews. I also have guided meditations on an app called Insight Timer, and you can access my specific meditations and teachings through the website. And gosh, I don't know what the next year is going to bring, Patricia, but there's going to be a lot more good stuff showing up on the website. So
Fantastic. Just be careful if anybody wants to go and visit Susan Burrell. She has a very defensive dog. You might not get past second. Susan, thank you so much for this fantastic book conversation, for the fun, your frankness, and I think we really drilled deep into the entire subject of trying to get rid of the wrong, evolve into the righter, and continue that to really feel the power. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate it.
And thank you, my dear Mentory TV community, to have joined me yet again for a fascinating conversation. This time we had Susan Burrell, Live an Empowered Life. I mean, get your sweatsuit because this is a true workout in every sense, in a mental sense, emotional sense, and you have to do a lot of writing, so you better get your pencils out as well. Thanks for joining again, and stay curious. See you next time.